the meantime, the House Financial Services Subcommittee on Capital Markets is focusing on Fannie and Freddie in a hearing that's set for today. Joining us right now from D.C. is Democratic Representative Paul Kanjorski from Pennsylvania. He's the chairman of the subcommittee. And, Chairman, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure, Becky. I'm your humble friend from Washington.
Oh, good.
Good.
We've never, whenever we talk about Congress, you know that you are excluded from any of the pejoratives, right?
Okay.
I mean, that's just understood.
I'll accept that, Joe.
You're welcome.
Congressman, you're going to be focusing in on Fannie and Freddie today, and there have been a lot of people calling for this for some time. What are you hoping to get to in these hearings, and who are you going to be hearing from?
Well, we're going to hear from the regulator, and their report to us will give us a yearly review and report of all the GSEs, government-sponsored enterprises. And it'll give us an idea, really, to take a measure as to how the real estate and mortgage markets in the country are going, whether we've reached any semblance of stability, and give us the opportunity to prepare for the surgery or procedures in the future, particularly as to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Fannie and Freddie right now are backing up about 96.5% of all new mortgages that are being called. How can you get the private industry to come back in and pull back the reins on those two institutions?
Well, that's basically our problem. You know, there are those people that would like to do away with Fannie and Freddie as soon as possible. And, of course, there are others that are recognizing that Fannie and Freddie in the past have fulfilled a function and will in the future, and that is stabilizing and maintaining a level growth in the real estate industry and in the mortgage market. I'm one of the latter people. I think it's essential to have a secondary market and to have good, fast liquidity out there remaining so that we can stabilize the existing economy and have it come back to good times.
Should you be able, as an American citizen, to purchase a home without putting at least 5% down on that purchase?
No, really, if I had my druthers, of course, it's a political issue. Some people would say no, nothing down. Other people would say 20% down. I'm probably closer to the 20% down than I am to the nothing. But we have to take a measure of it. We have to make sure that we make homes available to the middle class. And sometimes we get over-anxious. Certainly in the latter years of the last administration, there became this tremendous drive that everyone should have a home at any price and at any risk.
That was the Bush administration that did that, Congressman.
Well, no, I'm not saying it was that.
That was the guy you said wasn't too bright economically last time you were on.
I said that they had started a process and a procedure that allowed for that to happen, and they did encourage good regulatory reform at that time to rein that in.
I thought Bush tried again and again and again to rein in Fannie and was unable to because of the Democrats in Congress.
No, that's not true, because actually the Republicans ran Congress for all but the last 2 years. So Bush, under his administration and with the Congress, could have passed any law they wanted
you see how hard it is to. You've got Congress now. You look at health care. Was that easy to pass?
No, and it wasn't probably easy for Bush to pass it, but It wasn't because of the Democratic Party, who were in the minority. It was because he couldn't get the Republicans organized in the majority.
It goes all the way back to President Clinton and who was his HUD secretary back at that point? I mean, and Barney Frank, Cisneros, everybody wanted.
Joe, I've heard it goes all the way back to Adam and Eve.
Well, it at least goes back to the Clinton administration.
Mostly Adam, I think.
I don't know if I don't usually hear Republicans saying, "Gosh, everybody in the world should be in a house. We want to give away everything to the entire spectrum of income level should be in a house." That's more of a Democratic notion, no?
Well, I don't know that it's a notion of either side. It's different times in our history.
There are speeches that President Bush gave that talk about
home ownership.
Yes.
Yeah, but you can't just lay it on
Clara, thank you.
You can't just lay it on the last administration.
No, and I'm not, Joe. I'm not.
The BP spill's the last administration's fault, too.
Don't be so touchy about it, Joe. We're trying to find something out here that we can all agree on.
All right, that's going to be hard.
It's a situation, Congressman, that everyone can agree on. We had Senator Judd Gregg as our guest host earlier this week, and he said he still thinks it's the opinion of the majority of people in Congress that we need to be essentially promoting homeownership by by asking people to put down next to nothing to buy those homes.
Well, I don't know that they want to put down next to nothing, but we have to find different gradations for different people in different economic quarters of our society to encourage them and to allow them and give them the capacity to buy homes. And what we don't want to do is see a shock to the system. And that's why I disagree materially with those who would kill Fannie and Freddie immediately without substituting or replacing it with some other entity. And that's what we're trying to get into this morning in the hearing. How broad an option do we have in selecting what could replace Fannie and Freddie, or what institutions need to be constructed to take its place and to provide the function that it was providing for many, many successful years? And I think we'll come to that, but we can't rush into it. We can't act precipitously just to act and be, quote, politically responsible. We're responsible to make sure the economy functions, that it stabilizes, and it grows. That's what we should keep our sight on.
Congressman, our guest host today is Mark Fisher. He's the founder and CEO of MBF Clearing Corporation. And Mark, you have a question as well?
I just wonder if anyone's ever thought about allowing home ownership to be marked to market, in the sense that you buy a house for $400,000, and if the county assessment goes down, so your house is now based on the county assessment or the town assessment only worth $300,000, just like a bank can write down an asset, you then can write down that asset to $300,000, and then upon a sale, you'd have to obviously pay the tax on it. Pay houses because to some degree they'd have, you know, protection.
Mark, that's not a bad idea if the country were uniform and had the same standards. Unfortunately, across the country, assessments and evaluations of homes, I know in parts of my immediate district, they hadn't been reassessed for something like 50 years.
And there's a time crunch where you could get an assessor if you wanted a HELOC, a home equity loan. The assessor will come out and tell you, they'll give you whatever number you want to get the HELOC. I mean, those guys are, I can't imagine, you know.
Well, we're going through revolutions there. We're revolutionizing the appraisal business and making it far more independent in our reform bills now. I think all of the disaster of the last 18 months are going to highlight these failures, and we're going to have to work on them. But there's no magic bullet. And you know, I wish I could, as politicians, say, oh, we're going to cure all evil. We're not going to do that. We're going to work on it. We're going to improve from what happened 18 months ago, and I think we're going to learn a lot of lessons that will allow us to do things in a much better way. But there's no perfection to be had immediately. I'm waiting for that in the next life.
Congressman Kanjorski, thanks a lot for joining us today. We appreciate it.